Hi, I'm Nicolette.
And I'm Sean.
And welcome to the Graveyard Shhift.
In this podcast, we talk about true crime mysteries and the paranormal.
This is where we dig up new dirt on old stories that you may or may not have heard before.
We try to gather as many facts as possible and then put our own spin on what may have happened.
We don't gather all the facts, just enough to tell the story.
So if we've missed something important, let us know.
But don't be a dick about it. And please, keep your private detectiveness to yourself.
Other than that, kick back, relax, and welcome to the Graveyard Shhift.
Don't forget to like and subscribe. Hey everybody, welcome back to the Graveyard Shhift. In this podcast, we talk about true crime, mystery, and paranormal.
I'm Sean.
And I'm Nicolette.
And welcome to the Graveyard Shhift. Now, I know we have some interesting stuff to cover this week. You have done quite a bit of research about
extensive research.
H.H. Holmes, right?
Yes.
But first, I got to ask you, just if it's okay, before we start, what's going on here today? I like this shirt. I mean, I've been noticing this. We've been sitting here going over things for a while, and I see you have this bucket of blood. What is the bucket of blood?
So, firstly, let me just say that we are actually on YouTube as well. So if you're just listening to this, you can check out our other episodes on YouTube, view what we're talking about.
You can watch us and see Nicolette's shirt, bucket of blood, and check out all of our amazing episodes on YouTube.
Yes, we actually have pictures of the things that we're talking about in the background as we're talking about them too. And all of our cool adventures we're going to be going on location. So back to my shirt. We go to Virginia City a lot. Right, and Virginia City is in Nevada. It's one of the oldest mining towns in Nevada. Mm-hmm. It's called the Gold and Silver City, I think. There will be places that we'll be going to on location.
Right, we're going to hit that next year, right?
Yeah, I'm hoping so.
Yeah.
So like places like the Washoe Club and the Silver Queen, where there are plentiful stories of true crime, mystery, paranormal happenings. So that should be fun.
So Bucket of Blood is saloon.
It's a saloon there. Okay. I don't know the history per se of the Bucket of Blood, but I'm sure I will learn more very soon.
Will you buy me a drink there, please?
Absolutely.
Yes, awesome. Okay, cool. All right, excellent.
So let me tell you about H.H. Holmes.
All right.
Now, H.H. Holmes is said to be one of America's first serial killers. So H.H. Holmes was born as Herman Webster Mudgett in Gilmanton, New Hampshire, May 16th of 1861.
Oh, that is a terrible name, by the way.
It is a very terrible
brutal
name. We'll see why later. His father was Levi Mudgett, and his mother was Theodette Price. They were descendant of the first English settlers in America. Mudgett was the third born child of his family, so he had two older siblings and two younger siblings.
Right in the middle.
Kind of gives you what?
Middle child syndrome, right?
Right.
Yeah. Later
attempts to fit him into the patterns of modern serial killers, such as like McDonald's triad. The McDonald's triad, if you've ever heard of that, it's like the, they're abused by their parents and they have head trauma. They are, abusive towards animals as
all
children.
All these factors that continue, we see they repeat in these people that become
serial killers. Yeah. Some accounts of Mudgett have been said to have been torturing animals and suffering from abuse at the hands of his father. But this is all speculation. This is not like a truthful thing. We don't know any of this.
There's a lot of mysteries surrounding this.
Yes. Yeah. We don't know if his dad was abusive towards him.
Right.
He's kind of a liar. And we'll get to that later. Mm-hmm. Sorry about that. It was said that he was bullied in school. Uh-huh. And the kids in school had heard that he was deathly afraid of skeletons and the doctor's office, so they stuck him in a room with a skeleton, and this made him not so afraid of death and dying anymore, or skeletons, or the doctor. Really? Yes, and the reason why is because he was. You kind of have to get permission for this. Otherwise it's bullying and horrible. So with these kids locking him in the room with the skeleton This is called exposure therapy or extreme exposure therapy or flooding therapy. And it's like if somebody puts you purposefully in a room with spiders, if you're arachnophobic and they stick you in a room with spiders, that's to help you get over your phobia. Okay. So the panic kind of leaves you.
That makes sense. But please don't ever do that to me.
No, I will never do that to you. Don't do it to me either. Yeah. At the age of 16, Holmes graduated from high school and took jobs in Gilmanton and later in Alton. On July 4th, 1878, Mudgett married Clara Lovering.
Okay.
Or Lovering, sorry, there's no L in there. In Alton, and that was when he was 17 years old.
So he got married young.
Super young.
Wow, okay.
Super young. Mudgett and Lovering had a son, and they named him Robert Lovering Mudgett, and he was born on February 3rd, 1880, in Loudon, New Hampshire. During this time, he enrolled in the University of Michigan's Department of Medicine and Surgery. He graduated June of 1884. While enrolled, Mudgett worked in the anatomy lab under Professor Hardman, the chief anatomy instructor of the time.
Right. So he's gone from being, as a child, like afraid of death, afraid of skeletons, afraid of bodies.
Fully taking it on.
Now he loves anatomy and he's studying.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
He wants to do things with those cadavers.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, uh-oh. So while he apprenticed in New Hampshire under Dr. Nahum Wright, a noted advocate of human dissection, which that'll come into play later.
Whoa.
Or,
Yeah.
We know him for doing many horrible things. Holmes. Not Wright. Years later, when Mudgett was suspected of murder and claimed to be nothing but an insurance fraudster, he admitted to using cadavers to defraud life insurance companies several times in college.
No.
Yep. Mudgett's housemates described him as treating Clara violently. And in 1884, before his graduation, she moved back to New Hampshire. And later wrote she knew little of him afterwards.
For her, yeah.
Right. I would not want to know much of that guy either. Mudgett moved to Moores Fork, New York. So he's going all over the place, all over just the eastern part of America. And a rumor spread that Holmes had been seen with a little boy who later disappeared. Mudgett claimed that the boy went back to Massachusetts.
Well, so was he
where
he
was originally from? Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So apparently this little boy was from Massachusetts, and he claimed that the little boy went back to Massachusetts. And all during this time, Holmes is still Mudgett. He has not changed his name yet, and we'll get into that in just a moment. So Mudgett later traveled to Philadelphia and Pennsylvania and got a job as a gatekeeper. Now, I didn't know what this was when I first researched it, but a gatekeeper is someone that would be like a primary care physician or a family practitioner. General practitioner, yada yada. Yeah, I hadn't heard it before either. So he was at Norristown State Hospital while he was this gatekeeper.
Right.
He later took a position at a drugstore in Philadelphia as a pharmacist. But while he was working there, a boy died after taking medicine that was purchased at the store. Mudgett denied any involvement in the child's death, and then he immediately left the city, which does not look good for him.
It does not look good at all. Yeah.
Looks super
whether
suspicious.
He was making mistakes and accidentally caused this, or whether there was something even more
you could have owned up to it. Yeah.
I mean, you would think that he wouldn't be running from it if he felt completely innocent of any accusations. Or suspicion. Yeah, okay.
If a dog is guilty, he's going to run. Mm-hmm. I heard that in a Pushing Daisies episode. I love that show. Right before moving to Chicago, Herman Webster Mudgett changed his name to Henry Howard Holmes.
Well, that is a completely understandable change.
Yeah, I mean, Mudgett is very Poindexter name, and let alone the fact that he was cross-eyed, which gives him
he was cross-eyed too, Mudgett.
Yeah, poor guy. I can see why he was bullied.
Yeah.
I wouldn't have been the bully, though. I would have been like, oh, come over here.
Of course,
it's
you wouldn't have
okay.
locked him in a room with a skeleton.
No, because I wouldn't want that treatment done to me.
No way, man. But like, so all right, so he changed his name to Holmes.
Talk
What
about
is he,
do
like?
unto others, man. I'm just saying. Okay, so he changes his name to Holmes, and can you guess why?
Is he like a big Sherlock Holmes guy, right?
Super big Sherlock Holmes. He wanted to be, the detective and the hero of his own story, which did not work out well for him. The reason why he changed his name was so that he wasn't exposed to the victims of his previous scams, like the insurance fraud and things like that. Which, I mean, I can see why. But also...
Yeah. He's kind of creating new realities for himself as he goes on. New lives, new jobs, hiding from things he's been doing and accused of doing.
Yep.
Yeah.
Exactly. So after he's changed his name in late 1886, while still married to Clara, Holmes, now we're going to call him Holmes from now on because he's no longer Mudgett, married a woman named Myrta Belknap. There's a K in there. In Minneapolis, Minnesota.
So wait, he got divorced from Clara and then married Myrta?
No. He did not divorce her.
Okay, so that's
he marries Myrta.
Yeah.
And then 2 weeks later, he tries to divorce Clara.
Whoa! That's not a valid marriage then, right?
No,
that's not real.
And then you wouldn't think so, but he changed his name.
He's got a new name. He's hiding from his whole former life, and then now he's got a new wife too. Okay,
absolutely. I mean,
what a guy.
Clara had said that she didn't hear much from him after that, anyway.
Right.
So, I mean, she probably wanted to be away from him.
Yeah, man.
You know what I mean?
Lucky.
He was violent.
Glad she got away before the worst of things started happening.
He might have killed her too. So he tried to divorce from Clara, claiming that Clara was, skipping out on him. And there was infidelity on her part, but...
Dude, he's got a new wife.
Right? I'm sorry, who is skipping out on who? So apparently the paperwork never got to her, so she didn't know anything about this said divorce.
Okay.
And it was dismissed June 4th of 1891 on the grounds of want of persecution.
Interesting.
Meaning that you're alleging this. Sorry. There's no proof.
No proof. Okay.
We haven't heard her with anybody else, but okay. Holmes then had a daughter with Myrta named Lucy Theodette Holmes. Now, his mother's name was Theodette.
Oh, nice.
So he named his daughter after his mother, which is so sweet.
Much sweeter than if he had named her Mudgett.
Right? Ew. Well, poor guy, his first son, his last name is Mudgett. I wonder how long that name went on for. So Lucy Theodette Holmes was born on July 4th. Ooh, Independence Day.
Ooh, yeah.
Of 1889 in Englewood, Chicago, Illinois. That's a very long name. I don't know about Englewood. Have you been there?
I know Englewood near us.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I mean,
LA.
LA.
I've been to Chicago, but no, I'm not
never
familiar
been
with
to
Englewood, Chicago. Yeah.
As an adult, Lucy became a public school teacher. Holmes lived with Myrta and Lucy in Wilmette, Illinois, and spent most of his time in Chicago tending to business. Now.
What's his business now? Yeah, I'm afraid to ask.
Right. Okay. So then Holmes marries Georgiana Yoke on January 17th of 1894.
Okay, wait a second. Well, back up here for a second. Okay, wait. Is he still with the lovely Myrta? Okay, so now he's got a third wife.
Yes, he's still married to the other two.
Wow, this guy.
I know. And they were married in Denver, Colorado. So first...
He's just moving west, picking up wives along the way.
I mean, Illinois, he's still married. And then he quickly goes over to Denver, Colorado and gets married to somebody else. Which I think kind of that it was part of this whole scam of getting their property, maybe?
Yeah. Because
I don't know. That's my speculation. That's all I'm saying. It's just my speculation. So let's get into this murder castle. Do you know anything about that?
I know the phrase, the murder castle, but this was it was a hotel? Is that right?
They claim it was a hotel.
Okay.
So basically what it was like apartments that he could have people move into.
Oh, and
that sort of thing. Okay, so let me get into like the history of this. So while he was working in a drugstore in Inglewood, he bought the drugstore from this couple, and he lived with them for a while. Then he bought the property across the street and created like this huge building. Just like first floor was like a pharmacy and a jewelry store.
Wow.
And then the second story was rooms for rent, I think. Oh, apartments, yeah.
Okay, so he's got businesses going on the bottom floor, and then he's got residences up above.
Yes. So, I mean, it sounds like a pretty cool place to live because you're living above where you work. So
Right.
a lot of them did that. They bought places within the second story part of it, and then they worked downstairs. So it's a super easy way
I would love to do that, yeah.
I mean, I live a block away from where I work, so
I'm
that's
complaining
nice.
about a 5-minute commute. No, that's amazing.
I get to walk. So
All right, so he's got this building that he's purchased, and now he's running a business, and residences out of there.
yes.
And,
Okay, so Holmes declined to pay architects and steel companies while this was being built. I have it here. So they didn't like that too much.
understandably.
He was being sued by Aetna Iron and Steel in 1888
yeah.
because he wouldn't pay them for all of their hard work. In 1892, he added a third floor, telling investors and suppliers that he intended to use it as a hotel during the upcoming World's Columbian Exposition. That would be the World's Fair. Mm-hmm. You've heard of this?
Sure, the World's Fair, absolutely.
Yeah. Though the hotel portion was never completed. Fraudster.
I just want to put this out there more than, I mean, this guy's kind of an asshole.
Oh, yeah.
And
Big time asshole.
more than most of the killers that we've talked about. He seems to have much more of self-interest, kind of conniving, money-making, scheming ways.
Absolutely. And we'll
All right.
touch on a lot of that later on too. So furniture suppliers found Holmes was hiding their materials for which he had never paid them in hidden rooms and passages throughout the building. There were soundproof rooms and mazes and hallways, some of which seemed to go nowhere. Many rooms were outfitted with chutes that would drop straight down to the basement, where Holmes had acid vats, quicklime, and a crematorium. Let me
It's
say that
creepier.
again.
Crematorium.
Yeah. Quicklime and a crematorium to dispose of victims' bodies.
Okay. What is that? That sounds like the barber of Seville, right?
Yes. Yeah, but it also okay. So if you've ever watched American Horror Story,
right.
There's one called Hotel.
Yeah.
Where that's kind of the stuff that goes on within the hotel. You know, the guys that go into this and they're building on this stuff and just the contractors, you would think that they would be questioning stuff.
Well, yeah, because this is not a common architectural practice,
right?
To have chutes going down to a basement from different areas of a building. That's, I mean, trash chutes, yeah, but this sounds a little.
It was actually said that he fired these people when they did question him. So they got new contractors to start working on the place, and it was kind of like one of those places where it's like doors lead to nowhere and there's brick walls behind this door, kind of like the Winchester Mystery House, if you've ever been there or heard about it. So it's very, very confusing. The search of this place made the news, and investors for the planned hotel pulled out of the deal when a jeweler in the building, which was the pharmacy jewelry place, showed them the articles. A fire started in an unknown by an unknown arsonist shortly after Holmes was arrested, causing the hotel to be gutted on the inside. So it was unusable. In 1892, the hotel was somewhat completed with three stories and a basement. The first floor was the storefront. The second story consisted of elaborate torture rooms, not apartments, which contained a chute that led to the basement. The third floor held more apartment rooms, which I'm sure were torture rooms, not an apartment at all. In 1894, some police officers inspected the hotel while Holmes was out. During the inspection, they found rooms with hinged walls and false partitions, rooms linked with secret passageways, and even airtight rooms that were connected to pipelines filled with gas, which Holmes used as gas chambers. So that kind of brings
This is like a total house of horrors.
Yes.
Yeah, this is like, it's a very scary place.
Oh, yeah. Definitely.
Torture
he
chambers,
is such
gas
a horrible
chambers,
person.
chutes to dispose of bodies in acid vats. And
Right? Holmes would use the chutes to deliver the bodies to the basement, and once there, he made use of surgical tables and an array of medical tools to dissect them. Before selling their organs and bones on the black market, as well as to medical institutions.
Okay. All right. No, let me ask you your opinion or what you've found out in your research. Okay. So he's killing people, and he's, bringing the bodies down. He's cutting them up. He's selling. Is he killing because he's got a sadistic, horrible nature, or is this all just a big money making scheme for him to sell organs and body parts and blah?
That's interesting that you asked that. Is this my speculation? Or
your speculation or anything that what people generally believe about this guy, because it's just unusual compared to some of the stories that we talked about before.
I think it's a little bit sadistic on his part, just kind of like he likes doing it. But also I think it's more about the money.
Right.
You know what I mean? Because
he's been a schemer his whole life.
The entire time. Insurance fraud, just defrauding people left and right, and I mean, marrying 3 women at once. What the heck? That's a fraud in itself. I mean,
this is clearly a disturbed individual, but he seems to have more of a scheming practice to his methods than a lot of these guys that we've
there was a lot
about.
Of forethought with all of this. I mean, he had to like really sit down and go, okay, I'm going to build this huge hotel, and this is what I'm going to have in it, and this is how I'm going to dispose of these people that I have working in my pharmacy or, in my... I don't even know if he killed the people that were working on his hotel.
Yeah, all right. So
which might be something there too.
Like, tell me about some of the people that he's killed, or some of the people that we're sure of that.
I will get to that after this.
After the break, we'll be right back on the Graveyard Shhift. We're talking about H.H. Holmes. Thank you for tuning into the Graveyard Shhift. We'll be taking a short break, so get off the treadmill, park your car, or just grab a cup of coffee during this brief intermission.
You can visit us at thegraveyardshhift.com.
With 2 H's.
Also, you can view our videos on YouTube.
Don't forget to like and subscribe.
And email us at thegraveyardshhift@gmail.com.
Also with 2 H's.
And now, back to our program. All right, welcome back to the Graveyard Shhift.
All right. And Nicolette, you were telling us a little bit about H.H. Holmes.
Yes. So we got through the history of him and his conniving ways. And now we're going to talk about the murders.
The murders.
And then also the trial. So one of Holmes's early victims was his mistress, Julia Smythe.
3 wives weren't enough. He had to have a mistress.
Of course he did.
Yes, clearly.
I mean, because he's so suave and all with his cross-eyed face, whatever. She was the wife of Ned Connor, and they had moved into Holmes's building and began working in his pharmacy's jewelry counter. So you remember how I said that the police came and inspected the place?
Sure.
Because, and then the jeweler guy showed them the article of, him defrauding people and
Right. Absolutely. Okay, so he had a little
scamming people and stuff.
A little vested interest in.
I mean, you can see why the jeweler guy
wanted
was
to
kind of like
out the investigation of that. Yeah.
He's like, there's something suspicious
This guy.
here. After Connor found out about Smythe's affair with Holmes, he quit his job and moved away, leaving Smythe and her daughter Pearl behind. Smythe gained custody of Pearl and remained at the hotel, continuing her relationship with Holmes. Julia and Pearl disappeared on Christmas Eve of 1891. Do we know why? Can anybody guess?
Oh, no. Tell me Holmes did not kill his mistress and her daughter.
I mean, he did have that murder hotel.
Yeah, he did. And then put him down the little chutes and...
Pretty sure.
Wow. Okay.
Do you need a baby cadaver?
Oh, no. Oh,
It's
God.
horrible.
It's horrible.
Holmes later claimed that she died during an abortion. So more lies on top of more lies.
Well, yeah, he seems very comfortable in coming up with just complete fabrications of reality. With his lies are endless.
Yeah. So, I mean, even though he said that she died of an abortion, it wasn't actually confirmed that she did.
Right.
So, I mean, lies. Another likely Holmes paramour, Emmeline Sigrande. She began working in the building in May of 1892 and disappeared that December. So we got like Christmassy murders happening too, which maybe we can find some stories on that and see if there are any. Never mind. We'll get into it. Another woman who vanished, Edna Van Tassel, or I've heard her name as Emily Van Tassel as well, which is interesting.
Was she just someone that moved into the building, or is this another lover of the ladies' man Mudgett?
Well, I mean, she was said to be among one of his victims.
Okay.
I think that they had an affair too. I heard that somewhere.
Because, good old cross-eyed Mr. Mudgett is quite away with the ladies.
Right?
Yeah.
While working on the Chemical Bank building on Dearborn Street, Holmes met and became close friends with a Benjamin Peitzel, who was a carpenter with a criminal past. And he lived in the same building, and he invented a coal bin.
Invented what? I'm sorry?
A coal bin.
A coal bin, okay.
Yeah, so like, I'm kind of thinking of those train cars that carried the coal. You know what I mean? Or maybe that, or maybe it was like coal that you
when you said
use
coal bin,
next to a...
that's exactly what I was imagining in my head.
Good.
But I was just wondering how hard it would be to invent something like that. That's like
I mean, I thought that might have been... Right? Yeah. I thought that might have been invented already, seeing as though there were already trains. I mean, those poor Chinese people. Never mind. We'll get into that later. He had a criminal past, too. And Holmes used Peitzel as his right-hand man for several criminal schemes. A district attorney later described Peitzel as Holmes's tool or his creature, kind of like Igor.
That's what I was about to say. Igor. Igor.
No, it's Igor.
That's the first thing I was thinking like this, because he's a real Dr. Frankenstein himself.
Well, it kind of seems like it, right? Frankenstein.
Yeah.
No, it's Frederick Frankenstein. In early 1893, a one-time actress named Minnie Williams moved to Chicago, and Holmes claimed to have met her in an employment office, though there were rumors that he had met her in Boston years earlier. He offered her a job at the hotel as his personal stenographer. Do you know what a stenographer is?
I do indeed,
okay.
yes.
You've been to many courtrooms?
I have been to a few.
I don't like them. They're not fun.
They're not fun. They're actually really boring compared to your courtroom dramas on TV.
Then again, I mean, serving jury duty, if it's for a big case, maybe. Meh. Don't shun away from that. It could be fun. And she accepted the position of stenographer for his business. And Holmes persuaded Williams to transfer her deed of her property in Fort Worth, Texas to him. Sorry.
True con man
Sorry,
in every sense.
not to him, to a man named Alexander Bond.
And
Can you guess who that was?
Is another pseudonym of Mr. Midget Holmes.
Absolutely,
Yes.
absolutely. In April 1893, Williams transferred the deed, with Holmes serving as the notary. So he benefited from this. So it would seem fraudulent that he would get the property anyway. Since I'm a notary, I kind of know these things.
You're a notary.
I am.
This is
I'm a notary.
Information
Really?
to me and to our audience too. I'm guessing this is a notary we have with us
yes.
here.
I'm
Very
a
official.
commissioned notary here in LA. If you need anything, I can stamp it for you. So yeah, seems very fraudulent to me. He shouldn't have gotten away with that, but he used a different name to transfer it to. So I don't know how any of this is legal. How can you have so many names?
It's
so
somehow,
easy.
Like, let's give the man some credit. He has gotten away with quite a bit up to this point.
So much. And then he later signed the deed over to Peitzel, making his alias Benton T. Lyman. So Peitzel also had an alias.
Okay. Not as cool as Alexander Bond.
No. I mean, James Bond.
Okay.
The next month, Holmes and Williams presenting themselves as man and wife. So now it's like he's got 4 wives. He killed his mistress already. So where is this going? I don't know. They rented an apartment in Chicago's Lincoln Park, and Minnie's sister Nanny came to visit. And in July, she wrote to her aunt that she planned to accompany Brother Harry, quote unquote, to Europe. Neither Minnie nor Nanny were seen alive again after July 5th of 1893.
What's the death toll up to now at this point?
Oh, my God.
That's quite a bit.
Okay, so... yeah, that is quite a bit
he's
already.
Got his numbers
it's
are racking
at least 1, 2, 3, 4.
How do they catch him? Because he's very good coming up with fake names, coming up with new jobs. He's got an accomplice now. He's got many wives. How does he come to?
We'll get to that.
Okay.
We'll get to it. It does come to a close eventually. Holmes had an entrepreneurial spirit, obviously. I mean, he's running several businesses as well as killing people and scams. Based on his former medical education and his connections, he was able to sell skeletons to medical labs and schools where they learn about dissecting bodies.
Yes.
And the bones. The leg bone is connected to... Never mind. It's said that Holmes and sometimes a hired assistant were accused of stripping the flesh off the bodies, dissecting them and preparing the viable skeletons. The rest of the remains would be tossed in pits of lime or acid, effectively breaking down the remaining evidence. So they couldn't be found. They couldn't be traced back. And at that time, we did not have forensic evidence. So even if they tried to test the bones, they wouldn't know where to go with it. No.
No. So this is not a stupid man we're dealing with.
He's extremely intelligent.
Like just a very, very, sadistic and manipulative and dishonest man, but he's not a stupid man.
No, he is not a stupid man at all.
Yeah.
Very intelligent. I mean, he went to medical school, so to become a surgeon.
Yeah.
Oh, God. And pharmacology, he studied that too because he worked at a drugstore. And he prescribed medicine, which killed the kid.
Right.
Anyway, with insurance companies pressing to prosecute Holmes for arson, Holmes left Chicago because so the arson thing. Back when I had talked about the fire that started in the hotel and gutting the building. So now he is being questioned by the insurance companies, and maybe it was him. Which
somebody's finally on to him to some way.
I don't know what to do with my hands. Holmes left Chicago in July 1894.
Okay.
He reappeared in Fort Worth, where he had inherited property from the Williams sisters, located at the intersection of modern-day Commerce Street and 2nd Street. So this is Fort Worth, Texas. The Williams sisters' property. Poor girls. I'm sorry. There he sought to construct another castle.
One murder castle was not enough.
One is not enough. I mean...
He needs a summer castle.
I think he's possessed at this point.
Yeah, no, this is like...
Because you don't do this stuff if you're like, a decent human being. You have to be possessed by something, right?
Yeah,
we'll get into it.
Yeah.
There, he sought to construct another castle, like I said, along the lines of his Chicago operation, once again swindling a number of suppliers. So I guess he started construction.
Right.
But it was probably never completed.
Right, so he just takes the money for it.
In July 1894, Holmes was arrested and briefly incarcerated for the first time on the charge of selling mortgaged goods in St. Louis, Missouri. He was promptly bailed out, but while in jail, he struck a conversation with a convicted outlaw named Marion Hedgepeth.
Okay.
He was serving a 25-year sentence, Mr. Marion Hedgepeth. Holmes had concocted a plan to swindle an insurance company out of $10,000, which is the equivalent of $290,000 today.
Come on,
right?
Man. Like, this guy's a surgeon. He could have like a perfectly good income, and all he does is just one scam after another scam after another scam.
It just keeps going on. It's terrible. So he was planning on defrauding the insurance company by taking out a policy on himself and faking his own death.
Wow.
Yeah. How horrible can you get? Holmes promised Hedgepeth a $500 commission in exchange for the name of a lawyer who could be trusted. Now, that $500 compared to the $10,000 he was going to be getting, it doesn't seem comparable, but also, would you take that money?
I can't imagine who would. Like, it's but, there's always somebody to be part of this.
Okay, so Holmes was directed to a young St. Louis attorney named Jephthah Howe, who found Holmes's schemes to be brilliant. He was very like, yeah, let's do this.
All right.
I totally see this working out for you. It's great. You're not going to get caught at all.
All right.
Holmes's plan to fake his own death failed. Really? You didn't see that coming? When the insurance company became suspicious and refused to pay. I wonder why. Holmes did not press the claim because he knew he was in the wrong, guys. Instead, he concocted a similar plan with Peitzel.
Yeah.
Trying to fake Peitzel's own death. So Peitzel agreed to fake his own death so that his wife could collect $10,000 life insurance policy, which she was to split with Holmes and Jephthah Howe.
Just one scheme after another, and he's involving these
more and more
people in it now. More and more people.
But wait, it gets better. So the scheme was to take place in Philadelphia, and it called for Peitzel to set himself up as an inventor under the name of B.F. Perry, and then be killed and disfigured in a lab explosion. Holmes was to find an appropriate cadaver to play the role of Peitzel. Instead...
No, he killed Peitzel.
He sure
Tell
did.
me he didn't kill Peitzel.
He sure did.
Oh, no.
He knocked him unconscious, and then he chloroformed him, and then set the body on fire using benzene.
Oh. Do not get messed... Do not get mixed up with a guy like this. That is, you think you're his accomplice.
That's the rule. Don't get... No. So in his confession, Holmes implied Peitzel was still alive, and he used the chloroform on him prior to setting the body on fire. However, forensic evidence presented at Holmes's later trial showed that chloroform had been administered after Peitzel's death, a fact which the insurance company was unaware of, presumably to fake suicide to exonerate Holmes should he be charged with murder.
Covering his bases,
well,
so to speak.
So to speak. But I mean,
seem...
which is really interesting that the forensic evidence caught this, because at that time I didn't think they really had forensic evidence.
Right, because we're still talking like, what, 1890s?
This is 1800s. Late 1800s. Yeah. I mean, at this time also, Lizzie Borden was doing her thing.
Yeah, sure.
And they couldn't figure out who killed her parents. Anyway, Another story for another time. Holmes proceeded to collect the insurance payout on the basis of genuine Peitzel corpse, which, I mean, he had it.
He had it. I mean, it was...
Holmes then went on to manipulate Peitzel's unsuspecting wife to allowing 3 of her 5 children, Alice, Nellie, and Howard, to be in his custody.
Why?
I don't
More
know.
bodies down the chute?
Yeah. Well, he's not only going after women, he's now going after children as well. So
this is an evil man. I mean,
he's
all
super
kidding
evil.
aside, this is a really, this is a dark story.
Oh,
about
yeah. He's just a horrible person.
Yeah.
The eldest daughter and the baby remained with Mrs. Peitzel, obviously, because, I mean, someone's got to take care of this baby while,
Right.
Anyway, Holmes and the 3 Peitzel children traveled throughout the northern United States and Canada. Simultaneously, he escorted Mrs. Peitzel along a parallel route, which, while using various aliases, again, he's lying about who he is, and lying to Mrs. Peitzel concerning her husband's whereabouts. He had said that Benjamin was hiding in London.
Okay.
Really?
Okay.
As well as lying to her about the whereabouts of her 3 missing children. I mean, they're in Canada now.
Yeah.
So, in an even more audacious move, Holmes was staying at another location with his wife, who was unaware of the whole affair. As you do.
Of course. Naturally, why would she be aware of
He's
this
horrible.
entire mess?
He's just horrible. Holmes would later confess to murdering Alice and Nellie by forcing them into a large trunk and locking them inside. He then drilled a hole in the lid of the trunk and put one end of a hose through the hole, attaching the other end to a gas line to asphyxiate the girls.
Jesus. I mean, that's
That's pure torture
and
right
here's
there.
another manner in which he departs from many of the people that we've researched and talked about. He doesn't have a specific pattern of behavior in terms of his kills. Like, he gets creative with it.
This is where, I mean, he's one of the more intelligent, yet he's also like the first American serial killer that we know of.
Which is crazy. And he has a lot more self-interest than a lot of killers who seem to be, who compulsively kill, but compulsively kill out of, a sense of rage or
he just hates people.
Torment. But he's got this guy. He's out for himself, for money, for
all of it. I just want money, and I want to be killing people because of it.
And he's very quick to try to get away from being caught for anything, any of his scams, any of his
well, I mean, and he's just this pathological liar that seems to be getting away with everything. Which is horrible.
But
and
I mean,
you shouldn't lie.
A sick, sadistic person to do that to 2 kids. I mean,
There's that. Let's get into the little boy too.
Yeah.
All right. So Holmes buried their nude bodies, poor girls, in the cellar of his rental house at 16 St. Vincent Street in Toronto, Canada. Mm-hmm. This home and address no longer exist. They're not there, and you can't visit. Sorry. They've been realigned into part of Bay Street. Frank Gayer, a Philadelphia police detective assigned to investigate Holmes and find the 3 missing children, found the decomposed bodies of the 2 missing Peitzel girls in the cellar of the Toronto home. Detective Gayer wrote, "The deeper we dug, the more horrible the odor became, and when we reached the depth of 3 feet... we discovered what appeared to be the bone of the forearm of a human being." Gayer then went to Irvington, Indiana, where Holmes had rented a cottage. Holmes was reported to have visited a local pharmacy to purchase the drugs, which he used to kill Howard Peitzel, the little boy, and a repair shop to sharpen the knives he used to chop up the body before he burned it. The boy's teeth and bits of bone were discovered in the Holmes chimney in the attic space. So, like, he went up into the attic space, and there was one of those old it's like a furnace, but it's like a what do you call those? Like a flue? It's kind of like a flue, but it's like one of those.
It's like a burning
stove.
chimney,
It's one of those stoves.
Yeah, it's like a stove. I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A hearth, as it were.
Yeah, and it's got a little door you open.
Yeah.
Right.
So they've since taken it out, and it's an attic bedroom now. But we'll get into that. Holmes's murder spree finally ended when he was arrested in Boston on November 17th, 1894. Finally. After being tracked there from Philadelphia by the Pinkertons. You know about the Pinkertons?
Yeah, I do know a little bit about
detective agency.
Yeah.
Very cool. Also, I learned that they are of Scottish descent, and they are part of the Campbell clan.
Okay.
You're welcome, Mike.
Nice.
He was held on an outstanding warrant for horse theft in Texas, as the authorities had become more suspicious at this point, and Holmes appeared poised to flee the country in the company of his unsuspecting third wife, Georgiana.
She had no idea, but
no,
man,
not at all.
They held him on horse theft.
Yeah.
Guys killed how many people, and
never mind the
Al
insurance
Capone getting caught for taxes,
right?
But it's,
they have to be caught somehow.
They have to be caught somehow, but yeah.
I mean, what was
horse theft?
There was somebody that Ted Bundy was caught by because he was speeding or something.
Yeah, right. Exactly. Yeah.
So I mean, you got to get caught somehow. Well, we'll cover Ted Bundy later on. Following the discovery of Alice and Nellie's bodies in July 1895, Chicago police and reporters began investigating Holmes's building in the Inglewood and now locally referred to as the Castle. This is the murder castle. Though many sensational claims were made, no evidence was found which could have convicted Holmes in Chicago. According to Seltzer, so Seltzer is a guy, I actually watched his YouTube channel because he covers a lot of H.H. Holmes history. He actually also leads a ghost tour of H.H. Holmes and his places he went to. Anyway, so according to Seltzer, stories of torture equipment found in the building are 20th century fiction. So they never actually found those things.
Really? Okay.
I mean,
all right. So
according to him,
dispute about that. Okay.
Yeah, according to him, they didn't find that, but you never know. Okay, so he's caught for horse thieving, and the Pinkertons have been kind of looking into him. He goes on trial, and Pinkertons connect him to these murders of the Peitzel children.
Right.
He confesses to 27 murders. They only find 9, but it's speculated that it's over 200.
200?
Over 200.
Wow. So what happens to him in the trial?
Obviously, they arrest him and he's incarcerated.
Sure.
But later on, he took back his confession and he said, I only killed 2. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So he's on death row and he's like, no, sorry. I didn't.
2.
It was under duress. Sorry. I didn't actually kill all these people. I only killed 2 of them. Well, 2 is too many. Anyway, so then while he's having his contradictory accounts of, with this confession of being, it's 27. No, it's 2. He then says that he was possessed by Satan. And here is a little ditty that he wrote. Says, I was born with the devil in me. I could not help the fact that I was a murderer, no more than the poet can help the inspiration to sing. I was born with with the evil one standing as my sponsor beside the bed where I was ushered into the world, and he has been with me since.
My reaction. Yes, I think that somebody this sick and crazed must have something evil inside him, but this just seems like another ploy to try to
more manipulation
yep. to be held not mentally responsible for these crimes. Yeah.
Well, I mean, after all of this, he was hanged.
Yeah.
He was hanged. Yep.
Okay.
at Moya's Mensing prison. And before he was hanged, he said that he did not want to be buried the traditional way. He wanted to be buried in cement, like his body in cement, so that no grave robbers could come and steal from his body.
Wow.
And interestingly enough, they have unearthed him many years later. I can't remember the year, but they exhumed his body and found that his clothes were almost perfectly preserved and his mustache was found intact.
Okay.
Right. I mean, with a mustache like that.
With the mustache. So apparently that's the way to get buried in cement if you want your mustache intact.
Yeah.
All right. So there's been a lot of, I know, speculation surrounding this case and a lot of cases of paranormal activity related to his story and to this case. And so I want to hear all about that as soon as we get back from the break, right?
Yes. Well, I mean, these are recent discoveries too. So yeah, we'll talk about this right after this.
All right. We'll be right back on the Graveyard Shift. Thank you for tuning into the Graveyard Shift. We'll be taking a short break, so get off the treadmill, park your car, or just grab a cup of coffee during this brief intermission.
You can visit us at thegraveyardshhift.com.
With 2 H's.
Also, you can view our videos on YouTube.
Don't forget to like and subscribe.
And email us at thegraveyardshhift@gmail.com.
Also with 2 H's.
And now, back to our program. Welcome back to the Graveyard Shift.
Welcome back. And Nicolette, you were just about to get into some of the paranormal accounts as far as the H.H. Holmes stories. Some of the really interesting and kind of creepy things that have gone on in regards to H.H. Holmes, who we've been hearing about this episode.
Yeah, so I've actually always wondered if spirits of victims of serial killers came back or if they were still around or whatever. Mm-hmm. And we have accounts of this. I mean, the Ghost Adventures crew, I like to talk about them a lot because I like watching Aaron get pushed into places and locked into places. Does that make me bad? I hope not.
No,
okay.
That's what he's there for.
he's kind of push-aroundable. Yeah. So the cottage I was talking about that Holmes owned,
right,
and he killed Howard Peitzel in the chimney. He cut up his body and burned him. This woman named Samantha Starbright lives there now. She has an upstairs bedroom in the attic area. And it's very interesting when you watch the episode that I watched because she is like, she dresses herself in like a childlike form. So she's got like a crib and a changing table and she wears like little toddler type clothes.
Okay.
But she is this big woman.
That's unusual and kind of creepy, yeah.
Extremely.
Little bit weird.
Well, I mean...
But, I mean,
so the fact
not
that...
harming anyone.
No. I mean, I'm not going to kink shame you, sorry.
Right.
It's weird, but, you know. So she lives there, and lately she's been hearing weird things around her house. Yeah. Her mother, before she passed, because she passed in the house, her mom, had said that she felt the spirit of H.H. Holmes enter her body, and before she laid down to die, said to Samantha, "Sweet dreams, Howie."
I got a chill.
Yeah, right?
Yeah, that's...
Oh, gross. Then Holmes' spirit is said to actually lurk outside of the house on the block, like he's looking for Howard Peitzel.
Okay. Wow.
Yeah, but Howard's spirit is actually still in the house because that's where he was cremated in the chimney. So he's kind of stuck there, and really all he wants to do is go home. This medium went there to the house. The guys brought her along. I think her name is Cindy. Yeah, Cindy Atkins was brought in, and she had said that Howard is here. He just wants to go home. He wants to be with his family. And that is just the saddest thing I've ever heard because he's stuck there.
It is sad. And like, you know, as we've talked about time and again on this show, trauma.
Yeah.
Trauma keeps these spiritual energies around.
Absolutely.
And kind of confused often and you know, trying,
sometimes I don't think that they know that they're dead.
Yeah, exactly.
They kind of just stick around because they're like, so what's going on now? Why can nobody see me? So in the episode of Ghost Adventures, Zach looks a little too excited about feeling dizzy when he touches one of Holmes's possessions. Okay, so let me get into this. This historian brings a box of Holmes's possessions that was found by a couple that lived on the street, I guess, or in the house prior to Samantha moving there. They gave it to the historian, and then Zach gets to look at it, and apparently later on it said that he was trying to buy those items off of him because, I mean, he has the museum and all. But yeah, he becomes a little too excited when he touches some of Holmes's possessions. An SB Spirit Box picks up a voice saying "The Haunting" after Zach places a lock of hair found amongst Holmes's possessions back into the house, which we think is Howard's hair. Like he kept a lock of his hair before he killed him. Isn't that creepy?
That is creepy. That is.
So there's a descendant of Holmes, whose name is Jeff Mudgett. So I guess the name lived on.
Okay, all right.
And it's his great-great-grandson. Holmes's great-great-grandson, Jeff Mudgett, says that he had a pressure on his chest and a ringing in his ears. He also kept hearing the name Mudgett in his ears, and he had to be led out of the house. Like somebody had to physically pick him up and move him out of the house because he was just so overwhelmed by the energies in there. The attic was converted to a bedroom, and the team hears a door squeak downstairs while they're in the attic area.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, nobody else is in the house but them. They do their own investigations. So, and then a voice says, "Hear me," on a voice recorder. The EVP, there's an EVP that says, "You hunt me," and it sounds like a man. Oh, God. And then it says, I hate that you're hunting me," on the SB Spirit Box. Zach feels rage, and he says it very fervently. "I feel rage!" And he's in the kitchen area.
Yeah.
It's weird. He's a weirdo. The paranormal puck responds with "beside" when Billy typed in "Hi, Howard." Billy Tolley begins choking. And then they ask the question, "Where is H.H. Holmes?" And it says "past manor," like as in he's in the past.
Right.
And he's probably back at the castle, which the castle no longer exists. So Zach Baggins comes out and he brings out his EMF detector. It's one of those things that, does the and it's searching for...
Like in Ghostbusters,
like
right?
in Ghostbusters, yeah.
Okay, so it measures...
looks like this.
Like electromagnetic frequency.
Milligauss is what it measures.
Okay,
It's so like if you have electronic things around, you can kind of test it out, and it kind of goes from green to red, showing how much.
Right. So Zach's got one of these things, and it's going nuts.
Absolutely, yes, Sweet. It's going nuts. So it goes all the way to red, and then it goes all the way back down. Then they get on the geophone. I'm not sure what this is exactly. It measures temperature, though. So it goes up 5 degrees and then back down while it's laying on a pillow on a bed in the attic bedroom.
So there's no scientific explanation for why it would be going...
Nope.
Yeah, other than
some other type of paranormal activity.
Right.
So in another instance, all the cameras go off. They shut off like the battery went dead, and then they turn back on unexplainably. Mm-hmm. I also watched another a YouTube channel called Panicked Paranormal History, and they talked about hearing voices, and they visited the place where the murder castle once stood, which is it's now the Englewood Post Office.
Oh, okay.
There's only a small portion in there that would have been part of the murder castle, though.
Murder castle.
Yeah,
right.
And it's in the basement. It's like this small little rectangular thing, but they said that they hear voices and they've seen apparitions, faces on walls, yada yada.
Yeah, well, I mean, with like 200 kills or something to taking place in this horrible murder house. I mean, you would think that some energy would be still living on where it is now.
Yeah.
In the basement of this post office.
Yeah, no wonder why they see stuff going on
Right,
down
yeah.
there, right?
It makes sense.
It would make sense. Well, I mean, there must have been a lot of bloodshed down there too.
Oh, that's the other thing. I mean, that's just a horror show. I mean, let me just say that, like, the basement of a post office is kind of a creepy place to begin with. Anyway,
Yeah.
with people going postal and
Yeah,
but,
right.
No, but it's but this is there are a lot of reasons why there might be some energy and things, apparitions that people have seen,
Right.
all in the basement of this
Right.
place where the
Exactly.
famed horror hotel was before.
Yes, with the chutes and
Yeah.
vats and yep.
So what else? What other kinds
right.
of things
So-
have people?
In another YouTube episode by Adam Seltzer, which I had mentioned earlier, he actually takes people on a ghost hunting tour in Chicago. He used to take them to this place that was the glass bending factory.
Okay.
Where he speculates it was Holmes's body dumping site. And he would get people riled up about going there by saying, let's go to the body dumping site. And everybody's like, body dump, body dump. It's really creepy.
Wow.
Anyway, so they said that they've heard moaning. They've seen an apparition of a lady dressed in black,
Yeah.
which could be Emily Van Tassel or
Okay.
Edna Van Tassel, however you want to
Remember her?
name her.
Yeah.
And they've gotten several pictures of this apparition that would be the woman with the black dress. They did an excavation of the property. They're actually going to be building on that property, so they had to.
They're building something now on this property?
Yes, yeah.
Wow.
They did an excavation and they found things that could belong to, or artifacts that could belong to that time frame. They found a brick from, how the streets were kind of lined with those
Sure.
cobblestone,
Common
streets
from the time. Yeah.
right? And it had the name of a masonry company, I guess, that makes the bricks.
Okay. Reasonable to believe that it is an artifact from that
Right.
time period. Yeah.
Right. They said that their floodlights have flickered on and off when this guy, Adam Seltzer, mentioned Emily Van Tassel's name. And it's a house in back of this property.
Right.
So that's kind of weird. And then also when he mentioned H.H. Holmes's name,
So there's
it kind of flickered a little bit.
response to, yeah.
Yeah, there's actually intelligent response to names being mentioned, which is really strange, and I mean, that's really unexplainable.
Yeah, that's the thing. You look for, you always look for other possibilities why some of these phenomena happen.
Exactly.
But when there's really no other explanation, then, you start to think, okay, well,
Right.
this is what we're dealing with here.
Right.
Yeah.
And there's also a tree on the property that seeps sap that looks like blood. It's sticky like that. It's the color of blood. It's really kind of creepy.
I'm thinking Evil Dead now.
Right?
The creepy tree.
Yes!
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Wow, man. Okay.
And that is our accounts of the haunting, the history, and the trial of H.H. Holmes.
Yeah. Well, you definitely you definitely surprised me with a lot of the information about this guy. I mean, this has got to be one of the most notorious, like, just craziest killers in history, in American history.
So intelligent and so freaky in his methodical way of getting rid of people.
Yeah.
It's so weird. He's a weird guy.
And with that much violence and murder and trauma, then
There has to be spirits or paranormal happenings on the property.
Yeah, it's easy to see why that would be the case. All right. Well, thank you for sharing that incredible tale with us. Really, really like dark stuff, but very interesting. Very, very interesting stuff. I learned a lot, and we hope you did too. And we hope that you enjoyed us here on the Graveyard Shift.
Be sure to rate and subscribe.
Sure.
Write us a review, a nice one, please. If you have any stories of the paranormal, please write in to thegraveyardshift@gmail.com. You can also find us on our Instagram at The Graveyard Shift.
2 H's.
2 H's.
And yes, we would love to hear your stories. And Nicolette, I have quite a story for you for next episode.
I'm excited.
Just trust me, this is a big one. This is a good one.
All right. Well, with that, we'll see you in the graveyard.
All right. We will see you.